Well, the first major event of this year's U.S. presidential election is mired in confusion and uncertainty today. Right now, there are no results from the Democratic Party's Iowa caucuses, as officials are having a problem verifying the vote counts. Still, that is not stopping the frontrunners from taking victory laps this morning.
At some point, the results will be announced. And when those results are announced, I have a good feeling we're going to be doing very, very well here in Iowa.
Tonight, an improbable hope became an undeniable reality. By all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious.
So listen, it is too close to call, so I'm just going to tell you what I do know.
You won!
We're going to walk out of here with our share of delegates. We don't know exactly what it is yet, but we feel good about where we are. And look, so it's on to New Hampshire.
So some staged enthusiasm despite what is a very difficult moment for Democrats. Now, the contest for the party's presidential nomination is already contentious, and that was even before the delay in Iowa. There are questions over whether Iowa's overwhelmingly white and older voters should actually get the first say in who is the best candidate to take on Donald Trump. Then there's the intense media focus as winners in Iowa count on positive coverage to boost their campaigns. Well, our next guest was the frontrunner going into the 2004 Iowa Democratic caucuses, and he knows all about the high stakes that are there. He's also a former state governor, also served as chair of the Democratic National Committee. We are talking about Howard Dean, who joins us right now in Burlington, Vermont. So, Mr. Dean, nice to see you again.
Nice to be back.
Listen, we got to talk about Iowa. Obviously not an easy time for the party. And already we're seeing Republicans, Donald Trump among them, mocking what has happened in Iowa. In fact, Donald Trump's 2020 campaign manager is calling the Democratic caucuses a train wreck. What do you make of what's happened here?
Well, first of all, nobody should ever listen to Donald Trump because he says one thing one time and 5 minutes later it's something else, and they're probably both not true. So let's dispose of that right away. This is a technological glitch. Our system is flawed. Iowa and New Hampshire should not be first, and that has to be fixed. The problem is if you have an incumbent Democratic president, they never want to fix it because it was the system that got them there. So I'd rather have this problem and have an incumbent Democratic president for both the sake of the United States and the sake of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're saying that it's already flawed even before what people are blaming an app for this delay in Iowa. So how is it already flawed before what's taken place here?
Well, because, first of all, these states don't represent anything like the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party's core support groups are people under 35, women, and people of color. And when those groups turn out, we win. Well, those groups can't turn out in Iowa and New Hampshire because there are hardly any people that fit the two of those descriptions. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is the caucuses are fundamentally unfair. If you're older and it's cold, if you have young children, if you have to work two jobs, you can't go to these caucuses and you can't cast your vote. When 170,000 people are voting for every Democrat in Iowa, that is not right. So primaries are more fair than caucuses. So if we win, nobody's going to fiddle with this system. But if we don't win, it's the time to change it. When I was chairman, I added Nevada and South Carolina to the early states because those are very diverse states. And they do, in addition to New Hampshire and Iowa, help the diversity and so forth. But we really do need to change our elective system in the Democratic Party.
Well, and perhaps even the app that Iowa Democrats were counting on last night to actually tally the numbers. But, I have to say this delay in Iowa, it happens the day before the Senate is expected to acquit Donald Trump in his impeachment trial. How bad is this for Democrats as they try to present themselves as the viable alternative to President Trump?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference in the long run. It harms the individual candidates because there is an Iowa bounce, but it's actually fairly small. It's only about a 0.5 percentage point. So, in the long run, and the Iowans are good people. They really are. They don't. This conspiracy theory stuff on the internet from some of the candidates saying, "Oh, the votes shouldn't count" and all that. That's just ridiculous nonsense. And probably put out there by Trump trolls, actually. So, this is not a terrible, terrible thing. I feel terrible for the poor people who run the Iowa Democratic Party. This is a technological glitch. I think if you criticize them, it would be Simply, they should have run the app a few times beforehand, because this happens every time a new technological innovation goes on with the private or the public sector.
But does this not discourage Democrats and some that are debating whether or not they should actually show up? Because here you have right now Republicans creating this narrative that what has happened in Iowa shows that the Democratic Party is in disarray, that they are disorganized, and really they're kind of shooting in every which way the same charge that they made against Democrats when they pursued impeachment. So does this not discourage those Democrats who may not be capital D Democrats, but may be actually convinced to stay at home?
At one point, 53% of the American people believe that Trump should not only be convicted, but removed. Nobody pays any attention to what the Republicans say. They lie chronically. That's in their DNA, and everybody knows it. So if you're a loyal Republican and you love Trump for whatever reason, you're going to stay there. If you don't like Trump, you're not going to move towards Trump because of something like this.
Okay, you're the former DNC chair, though. So if it were you still in that position, what would you be doing at this point to make sure that going forward you don't have another Iowa app problem that we have today?
I would move the caucuses in the New Hampshire and mix them in with 3 or 4 or 5 other diverse states and then rotate them through in the first primaries. And also the process by which I would actually did try to make their caucuses more Democratic Party, more democratic and fair. I don't know. I'm not on the inside anymore, so I don't know why that didn't work. But that clearly needs to happen. But I think, Iowa needs to go to a primary system.
Okay. So I'm quickly running out of time. And to my understanding, you've not thrown your support behind any one candidate so far to actually be the nominee for the Democrats. What are you looking out for right now? What quality do you want to see before you make that choice?
There's only one quality that I care about: who can beat Trump.
Okay. Well, Howard Dean, perhaps you and I will speak again. The American process seems to go on for quite some time, so thank you for this.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
And that is Howard Dean, the former governor of Vermont, also former chair of the Democratic National Committee.